part 2 of the Gerson Therapy, harming the hopeful or healing the hopeless. Let's get into it. I'm Joe from the Carolinas, helping you confront the paranormal with reason, logic, and common sense. In this video, we're going to continue along in our deep dive into the risks associated with the Gerson cancer treatment regimen. You can find part 1 of this series right here in that card in case you missed it. Unfortunately, you know how it goes with social media. You post the video 2 months ago and then all of a sudden somebody claims that you're perpetuating lies on purpose. So I think it's appropriate now to cite some more of the raw, real data that's adequately sourced, so that way y'all out there can be the judge of what you want to believe or don't believe regarding the Gerson cancer therapy. Now, I cannot be your doctor because I don't know you, so there's going to be health information discussed in here, and it wouldn't be ethical for me to recommend or not recommend something specifically for you. Without further ado, here we go. Okay, now for some case studies from Gerson's own practice. This comes from the American Cancer Society. Gerson received a great deal of publicity in 1947 when John Gunther described the tragic death of his son in his book called Death Be Not Proud. Gunther's son was suffering from a recurrent inoperable brain tumor and underwent treatment with the Gerson method of treatment for cancer. The pressure symptoms of his brain tumor were temporarily relieved, and the young boy experienced a brief remission, which competent authorities attributed to dehydration and a probable delayed reaction from having previous radiation and chemotherapy. So the dehydration, which is basically fatal anyway, led to decreased brain swelling. The poor guy had a brain tumor, for crying out loud. And so, yeah, he was dehydrated. He felt better, but he didn't get better. Now, another young boy was taken to Dr. Gerson while he was still in practice by his parents after an amputation had been advised for a bone tumor. So the amputation hadn't happened yet. This poor kid's got a bone tumor. While following a prolonged stay at the nursing home under treatment by Dr. Gerson himself, the youngster returned home in a state of malnutrition and died shortly thereafter the treatment. Now, how about when Max Gerson was alive and colluded with, quote, in 1946, the Gerson method of treatment for cancer was supported by the Robinson Foundation for Cancer Research. That's 14 Wall Street, New York, New York. In 1944, this foundation was actually financed by 2 business enterprises. That was the Hatfield Wire and Cable Company and Will and David and Boat Company, both of Amboy, New Jersey. They were incorporated under a provision of the Revenue Code for educational institutions to exempt the organization from federal taxes. Following a year's trial and evaluation of Max Gerson's cancer treatment, the foundation that Gerson agreed to participate in, this was not punitive. The foundation reported that that project was discontinued in 1947. A committee appointed by the Commission on Cancer reviewed records of 86 patients and examined 10. It failed to find any scientific evidence of any value in this method for the treatment of cancer as a whole. Gerson worked for the Madison Foundation for Biochemical Research in New York that was formed in March of 1947, and they sponsored an evaluation of his treatment methods for cancer. In April of 1950, the foundation that Max Gerson worked for reported that there was not enough evidence presented to warrant any claims that the Gerson method of treatment was a cure for cancer. And Gerson resigned. He intentionally chose to resign from this foundation on April 1st, 1950, April Fool's Day. It didn't work. He wouldn't have been there unless he was part of the whole thing, if he was part of the whole medical industrial complex. Now here's the next thing that happened. In 1953, Dr. Max Gerson's malpractice insurance was discontinued. Malpractice insurance is basically like if the mainstream medical whatever harms you, you're going to get at least some kind of legal representation to try to get some of your money back, try to get some of your damages back through the doctor's malpractice insurance through mainstream medicine. Again, according to this information, his malpractice insurance was discontinued in '53, and in 1958, Max Gerson was suspended for 2 years from the New York County Medical Society. It wasn't that his heart wasn't in the right place, it's that his treatment was not holding up. Folks, 6 weeks of raw fruits and vegetables that are either raw themselves or stewed in their own juices, no animal protein, flaxseed oil, no other fat like cooking oil, and no salt or spices of any kind. You get a glass of freshly prepared juice from vegetables and fruits, and that needs to be consumed every hour for 13 hours throughout the day. They have to be very high in potassium and high in sodium, like we said earlier. Food can only be prepared in cast iron pots, and aluminum cookware is not allowed. Now, I really like the fact that we don't want to be ingesting any pesticides or herbicides or genetically modified crap that's in many of the foods, but juices need to be prepared in the Gerson therapy using a crushing method rather than a method reducing to pulp. When Max Gerson began prescribing his regimen for patients, he didn't consider his therapy a cure for cancer. He thought of it as more of an adjunct, as more of an addition to the commonly used methods of cancer treatment. At that time, in 1945, Max Gerson, in his article titled Dietary Considerations in Malignant Neoplastic Disease Preliminary Report, Gastroenterology, okay, he wrote, there was no conclusive evidence from his work that cancer was influenced by diet. However, he did think that diet was a useful supportive measure. In 1958, after treating patients with his regimen for more than 15 years, Gerson published his complete theory and the results of 50, that's 50 cases. And he started referring to his regimen as an effective treatment for cancer even in advanced stages. So he marketed his treatment differently, but the treatment methods were the same. There was a melanoma study done over there at the Gerson Institute with people that were dealing with melanoma. Really terrible skin cancer. I mean, that sucker, you know, melanoma happens and it can tunnel all under the skin and show up in another part of the body like the lung or anywhere else in the body. And the melanoma study with stage 1 through stage 4 melanoma cancers, 153 patients treated with the Gerson diet. Of the 14 stage 1 to 2 patients, all were disease-free at 17 years post-treatment, thank goodness. However, this number was too small to statistically compare it with other cohorts. For stage 3 melanoma patients, the 5-year survival rate was 71%, compared with rates of 27 to 42% reported in the literature. The stage 4 patients had the largest survival advantage. The 5-year survival rate for these 18 patients was 39%, compared with 6% in the published literature. The analysis did not include 53 patients who were lost to follow-up, which could have affected the survival comparison. I mean, the melanoma study of the Gerson therapy treatment was missing 25% of the patients to compare to. That's a big deal when you've only got 18 patients to figure out whether this thing works or not. Like, I'd rather have, 18 and then another 53 patients for follow-up to figure out whether this thing worked or not. But it's good that it lasted for the ones that it did. 3 deaths seem related to the coffee enemas that were reported in the literature. Case reports of 2 more deaths following treatment at the Gerson Institute were both attributed to electrolyte imbalance after autopsies were performed, showing no active inflammation of the colon, but they were dead. A 3rd case report of electrolyte imbalance didn't result in death, but the patient developed hyperkalemia potassium overdose while undergoing Gerson therapy. And thank goodness that that person got help at a different hospital. And then here's something else that you weren't told about the Gerson therapy even today. You remember the wellness warrior? Yeah, Jessica Ainskow, Australia's wellness warrior. She died of cancer at age 30. She attracted thousands of followers on social media. She shunned conventional medical treatment for her rare cancer and tried to cure it with the Gerson therapy. This is a write-up in The Guardian by Melissa Davey, 28th February 2015. Again, could be mainstream media, could be a complete lie, but where's Jordan Sather reading from? I'm giving you my sources. You can find all my sources down there in the description box, okay? We have a responsibility as YouTube personalities or whatever we call ourselves, okay, to not peddle false and misleading claims regarding health. In one of the Sather videos, I saw him make a very clear statement that he worked in a health store. People called him doctor, and he didn't correct them. Jordan Sather does not have a doctorate degree. Jordan Sather on his own website admits that he dropped out of college, which I don't fault him for that. College sucks. A lot of stress. But we have a responsibility when we're working with the public to not let them believe or think that we're experts when we're really not. And I'm telling you that I'm not an expert, okay? I'm just presenting information. Don't take my word for it, but please cross-check me. And I really wish that other YouTube personalities or people that think that the world is a business, which I do not believe that, I wish people that believe that way would actually cross-check themselves. Jessica Ainskow was diagnosed with epithelioid sarcoma 7 years ago. This was, again, as of 2015 when she died. This is a rare soft tissue cancer which affects young adults and often most first develops in the hand or arm. Now, the doctor suggested that Ainskow's best chance of survival would have been to have her arm amputated at the shoulder, a traumatic procedure that increases the patient's chance at 10-year survival. She tried chemotherapy for a little while, but when it stopped working, amputation was recommended. It was then Ainskow tried to cure her cancer by following an unproven treatment called Gerson Therapy, which involves daily coffee enemas, a heavy regimen of dietary supplements, and following a strict organic vegetarian diet. Ainskow became known as the wellness warrior. She left her job, began documenting her experiences with the Gerson therapy online. Her mother, Sharon, followed her daughter in advocating Gerson therapy after being diagnosed with breast cancer herself and died in 2013. May she rest in peace. In an update posted to her website in 2014, she said she'd become unwell, attributing this to the stress involved in her mother's death. She says, "For the first time in my almost 7-year journey with cancer, this year I've been really unwell." She lived with cancer since 2008, and for most of those years, her condition was totally stable. When her mother became ill, her cancer started to become aggressive again. And this is the link we see that has been reported even in mainstream medicine of the link between possible stress and cancer being connected in some way. Cancer Australia states that most alternative therapies have not been assessed for efficacy, whether it works, or safety, whether it's safe. Some have been studied and been found to be harmful or ineffective. So just know that of all the success stories involved in this Gerson therapy as well as alternative non-mainstream medicine cancer treatments, yes, there are success stories, and some of them are not successes at all, just like in mainstream allopathic medicine. If you've made it to the end of this video, at least now you know some of the facts from the counterpoint side of the fluff pieces, and also just not knowing any better, but thinking we do, so we can make an informed decision in one way, shape, or form. I believe that people have a right to make any decision they want for their own health, whether it's cancer or anything else, as long as they are armed with the risks and the benefits. When you're getting only one side, folks, you're not well armed. You're getting, in my personal opinion, propaganda. And that's not going to help any of us, especially if all of us in these alternative communities are interested in propaganda. There are real people hurting out here, and the worst time to start researching all this stuff is when you're told that you have cancer. I wish you the best in health. I wish you the best in your thought process. I think it's important that we confront any form of cancer therapy, whether it's mainstream or alternative, with a balanced reason, logic, and common sense. Thank you.